Hello everyone, I'm Anthony on Life and welcome back to the On Life, where we look to add clarity in a confusing world. I've thought a lot about the direction I want this YouTube channel to go in, and as a successful entrepreneur, a passionate creative, and someone who's worked in the industry of coaching others for a long time, I feel like I do have a lot to add and share to help people make better decisions in their life. And that's really what I want to focus on. But of course, I'm just one person. I can't know everything. And one of the biggest decisions people have to make in their lives, especially young people, is whether or not they should go to college, where they should go, and what they should study. Very few times in your life do you make a decision that's going to cost you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. For most people, it's buying a home, and now these days, going to college. So I wanted to feature people on this channel who are recent college grads. They can talk about where they went, what they studied, and overall what they learned and if it was worth it. So we are going to kick off with our very first interview with a young man named Tom who studied philosophy at the University of New Hampshire in Durham, New Hampshire. Now, this was the first episode we've done. It was kind of a last-minute decision, so I just threw some gear together very quick, so I apologize for the poor lighting, but hopefully you still enjoy the talk and you can take something away from it. If you find it useful, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. There is more content like this coming. And if you think of somebody else that might get something out of this, is someone looking to study philosophy, is someone looking to go study at the University of New Hampshire, pass this video along. The entire purpose of this channel is to only put out content that adds something to the overwhelming pile of information on the internet. I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for you. Enjoy. I know Abe. I have a bunch of friends that are recent college grads, but I thought it'd be cool to start with someone I didn't really know that well.
Yeah, and also unlike Abe, who went into engineering, which is a great choice if you're going to college, you chose someone I think that represents most of the population in getting a liberal arts degree.
Right.
Which a bachelor in liberal arts, I can do anything, or effectively nothing. I paid as much as Abe, and now he's got a sweet state job with benefits, and right. Maybe I can be a bartender, if I work hard.
Well, we're going to get into that.
Sure.
So let's talk about that.
Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with your name is Tom.
It is Tom.
Do you have a social media you want to plug?
I don't have social media.
You don't have any?
I have no social media.
So this is a unexpected twist already.
It is. I can't plug anything of my own, so I guess I'll just plug you.
Well, I have 46 YouTube subscribers, so it's pretty serious.
All right. Well, I'm reaching a large audience, and they can't find me on anything, so that's too bad. Yeah. But no social media. Yeah, I got nothing.
All right. Well, Abe, should I mic you in? I feel like I should mic you in.
No, that's okay. I mean, Tom, you should explain why you don't have social media and your opinions on that. You can't just say you don't have nothing.
You want me to? Okay, I can explain.
Well, okay.
If you want.
Yeah, explain to me why you don't have social media.
I mean, if I was trying to run a business, obviously I would, and or trying to sell anything. But in the meantime, I just don't see how it contributes to my health or my happiness in any positive way. It's just like increasing the number of people you compare yourself to, and not only increasing the number, but increasing the quality, because the people who are most famous and who you're going to get the most input from are these outliers. And not only are they outliers, but they're not lies, but it's an art. They're creating a persona. They're becoming something they're not and hiding flaws. And I just don't see how I can just go online and find things when I want to find them. I don't need things to come to me, especially when I'm not going to be the one filtering through those things. And I just don't see the value. It doesn't make me happier to see what anyone else is doing.
So let me ask you, did you never have it, or did you get rid of it at some point?
I was very late to, I was born in 94. So I basically when I got to high school, middle school, 8th, 9th grade, that's when Facebook kind of blew up, I think, give or take.
Yeah.
I got a Facebook in my sophomore year, and I didn't want to get one, but the girl I was dating made me get one so that we could be official on Facebook, because that's what love is. So I had a Facebook I didn't go on all the way into college. I never used it because I felt really weird putting my thoughts online for nobody to care about, you know?
Yeah.
And so eventually I think that one ran out and I had to make a new Facebook like when I was a senior in college so that I could make a Tinder account.
Oh yeah, I did hear that. I did hear that Tinder makes you have a Facebook.
Tinder makes you have a Twitter or a Facebook.
Oh, you can use Twitter. Okay.
Yeah, that seemed like more work. So I made a Facebook and took 6 photos, and that's probably the number of them on my Facebook.
Sweet.
But I've deleted my Tinder, and my Facebook's probably roaming out there wild and free, but I don't go on. So I never had Instagram. My friends want me to get Snapchat. I refused on principle. And the more they ask, the more I dig my feet in and make them suffer.
Yeah, I can't say I blame you. Snapchat's a POS. So before we go any further,
Yes,
you went to UNH.
I did.
In
Yeah.
Durham.
Yep, Durham, New Hampshire.
Your major was philosophy.
With a minor in creative writing. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't
Yep.
know that part. Okay, so you don't have social media, nothing to plug. Let's backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
Tell me about where you're from, like the town you grew up in, the high school you went to.
I grew up in Ossipee, New Hampshire.
Where's that?
That's in the Lakes region around Lake Winnipesaukee. Anyone who's not familiar won't know where it is. But it's,
I'm from New Hampshire, and I don't really know.
Exactly. There you go. It's near a lake. It's near a couple lakes, many lakes and mountains, and people venture. Yeah, they venture up from Massachusetts to go and spend money and live there. But I grew up in Ossipee, which is a town over from where I went to high school, which was Kingswood, Wolfboro, New Hampshire. Yeah, that's where Romney has a house, and
Oh, cool.
I think Sandler has a house right over there too.
Does Romney wear his special underwear up there?
As I've tried to spy on him from the boats, but
No
I
luck.
never see him there. I never see Mitt. You know, I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But it's too bad because it'd be cool. Oh, it's Fallon. It's not Sandler. It's Jimmy Fallon.
Adam Sandler is from New Hampshire, though, isn't he?
Manchester, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he has a home somewhere up there.
I'm sure he's got plenty of homes. Grown-ups made him a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, Hubie Halloween. But yeah. So I grew up in Ossipee, which is it's a woods town. You know, most people there are. It's very rural. A lot of old yokels. A lot of bubs. You know, a lot of people who are going to go into cutting down trees and taking trees away and picking up dirt and moving dirt. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
A little depressing. Not a lot of youth there. So not a lot to witness, or it's very isolated.
So is this what was the primer for the philosophy?
It was. I had like 2 neighbors and a brother, so like not a lot of people to talk to, and the internet wasn't good yet, so I was just reading books and also playing sports by myself. I would throw the football. I would run and catch the football. So you could say I lived a joyous childhood. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So how many kids at your high school?
1,000, I think, but it came from 6 different towns.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
a little less than 1,000, probably 8 something.
I mean,
But
that's a good sized school for a New Hampshire school.
I think it's the second. So if there's types of schools or whatever, so you've got your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. We were tier 2 in terms of size. It's the second biggest.
Did you go there, Abe?
Yeah, I almost came from
Yeah.
Kingswood recently.
He went.
okay.
He lived in.
All right,
Durham.
don't give too much away. You gotta be quiet here. We're saving you for the next episode.
Yeah, Abe's number 2.
So, well, I just it's a like you said earlier, it's a juxtaposition because you were a liberal arts major, Abe's engineering. So
Yeah, Abe made the right choice in terms of getting a
oh,
job.
spoiler alert! Don't do what Tom did. Apparently, so
Well, if you're really passionate about it and you want to go to school for 4 more years after, then you should do it.
what? Okay, so what year did you graduate, and did you go straight into college?
Yes, I graduated in 2013 and I went straight into college. I went to UNH. I had not visited it when I applied or accepted to go there. I applied there, Boston College, Northeastern in Boston, and University of Vermont.
And did you get into all of them?
I got into all 4. I was not to toot my own horn, but I was in high school. I was a very good student, straight A's. I was great at math.
Yeah.
Like all of these. Yeah, exactly. Like, I aced all my APs. I got good SAT scores. And, when I applied to these colleges and I assumed what they thought was, oh, he'll go into engineering. Because I said I was going to go into engineering. I was going to be a chemical engineer because they made tons of money.
They do make a lot of money, especially like right out of the gate.
Yeah, like $70,000 out of the gate.
Right.
Easy.
Yeah.
And that's like entry level chemical engineer.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2013. So who knows how much
more now, yeah.
They probably make way more now. So yeah, 2013 graduated, chose UNH because it turns out Boston College and Northeastern, while they gave me some great scholarships, still cost $68,000 a year.
Yeah.
And those prices just keep going up. And UNH cost for in-state, it's one of the most expensive state schools in the country, I believe.
For in-state students?
I think, no, just for the tuition. But
Okay.
for in-state, it's less.
How much is if you're out of state, how much does it cost to go to UNH?
I think it's close to it's 40 something.
$48,000.
I think it's 28 for in-state.
So my brother went to Rensselaer Polytech, which is
RPI.
Yeah, a great school. And I remember at the time, so he graduated high school in 2000. I remember at the time they were in the top 5 most expensive schools in the country or something like that. And it was $35,000 a year.
What year was that?
That was 2000.
Well, it doubled by the time we got there.
Yeah, so the increase in tuition has been astronomical. So, yeah. So I think that makes a lot of sense that you decided to go to
The state school.
the state school.
Yeah.
So how much was it for in-state, if you don't mind me asking?
28, if I remember correctly. I think that's everything. That was tuition, room and board.
Yeah.
Like that was for if you lived on campus,
Yep.
I think it was 28. And then whatever got chunked off if you chose to live off campus in an apartment.
Right.
16 if you live off campus.
Yeah. But I mean, you pay for an apartment. So.
Right, yeah, it's kind of all the same in the end.
And I mean, you miss out on the experience, which is...
It's a big part of it.
It is. It's a huge part of it.
Yeah, it's probably part of the reason why I dropped out of college. So, I was going to UNH in Manchester. There's no on-campus housing.
Yeah,
there, so,
exactly. You
yeah.
don't have your friends to buoy you down and like force you to get a C so that you can hang out next semester.
Right, exactly. So so you went straight into college, and was philosophy your only major? I know a lot of people tend to switch.
I was a chemical engineer when I went in.
Oh, sorry, you had said that.
Yeah, the first day I showed up and they were doing everyone, engineers go to this building, people go to this building. And then they sat us all down in a big fancy hall, because, they've got the engineering money. So they have sweet buildings. And then they gave us like a class sheet. So it was a list of all the classes that you could apply for, basically, or that you were going to have to get done as an engineer.
Right.
And I looked through, and not a single one of them was interesting in any way. And the first question they asked was if anyone doesn't want to be here or is in the wrong place or any of those things, and they want to switch, now is your chance.
Wow.
And me and one other kid got up and walked out of the room and went into the liberal arts program.
So it was that day you decided
It was
to
that
switch.
day. I was going to be a chemical engineer until the first day of college, basically.
And was it straight into philosophy, or was there some
I had no
dabbling?
idea. No, I didn't know. I had never taken a philosophy class. I had no idea. I just went. That was just where they sent the rejects, basically. No insult to liberal arts people, who are great people. But,
Sure, yeah.
a lot of fantastic people in liberal arts.
Okay, so
But-
so when and how did you land on philosophy then?
That would have been, I think, second semester freshman year. I took a philosophy course on.
So you were kind of just like an undeclared liberal.
Yeah, undeclared.
liberal
I was just
arts,
taking,
yeah.
and it was going to satisfy
Sure.
something. You have to declare by the end of your second year.
Okay.
So I take a course in something, social and political philosophy. Who knows? And it was actually super interesting. And you contend with these fascinating abstract ideas, and you sit in a room and you hang out and you talk about things, and everyone talks and contributes. And it was just for people who are interested in ideas or just not interested in filling out formulas for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. It was so much more interesting and inspiring than any of the engineering stuff was for me, because that's just not what that's not what I'm interested in. So I was never going to be good at it. And I mean, part of the reason when I sat down and I looked at those papers, I looked at those courses, and I thought to myself, if I had to do any of these for a career, like I'd kill myself eventually. Like I turned 45.
Which is a very philosophical thing to do.
Exactly. I was like, no, it's not worth it. I'm out. I did the math.
Ironically, yeah. Okay.
So I had to try something I was interested in. And also when you're 18, you have no concept of like, yeah, because I guess I should preface all of this by saying, you know, when you're 18, you're 19, you're 20, you're 21, you're making these decisions and, you know, you've barely figured out how to wipe your own ass. And like you're making decisions about debt when you don't understand what debt is.
Yeah.
And you don't understand.
It has no relevance.
It has no relevancy to you. You've never paid for anything, you know? You've even if you've lived a harder life in America, like a lot of kids just, when you're 18, you're like, man, I'd love to have a girlfriend and like get laid. I hate myself most of the time. You know, I've never tried drinking and drugs. Like, what about those things, you know? And
Yeah.
You're 18, you're 19, people are making decisions about their life and like you don't know what you're doing. You have no idea. You have no plan. You don't know what money is. You don't know what it is to work for a living, what it is to spend 10, 15 years doing the same thing every day. You know, and you just have no concept. You just want for people to like you and you want to have sex and drink and fucking do drugs. And like, that's what you want to do when you're 18.
Yeah. That
so I should
familiar.
preface all that by saying, you know, I wasn't making decisions very well because I was 18, 19, 20, 21, confused. And, I didn't like myself.
Sure,
I think that's what most people are doing when they're 18 is not liking themselves.
Sounds right. Yeah.
You know, no one had ever taught me that, you know, you should sleep and eat well and work out and then you'll be happy. Like,
Don't you think it's weird in high school if you're good at math or science, you might be taking these college level classes, but no one has taught you how to balance a budget, like balance your checkbook, or no one like says to you like, hey, this is how you do your taxes.
no, there's not a single class.
No.
And there's one class on like sex and health. Like you learn one time, you're like, you should probably wear a condom and, you know, there's fats, carbs, and proteins.
You got that? We didn't even get that. I don't think
We got one class, I think, in our college, in our high school.
We
But,
didn't.
Like,
We didn't get macros where I went.
I don't even know if we got macros.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. I was
Yeah.
thinking about baseball. Like,
So so you switched to philosophy.
Yep.
What was that course load like? What kind of classes does somebody take if they're a philosophy major?
philosophy undergrad, correct. Well, you would take ethics. You would take ethics, probably existentialism. You would take social and political philosophy. You would take something probably about art or science, metaphysics.
All right, now let's talk about that.
Sure, yeah.
For those that don't know, what is metaphysics?
What is metaphysics? Well, you know, it's a game people want to play, but it's really it's incredibly difficult because it's all abstract. But basically, it's like, what is reality?
Right.
But not on the physical scale. You know, you're talking about like unprovable, the nature of reality. You know,
Right.
I'm trying to think of.
Are we living in a simulation?
Exactly that kind of stuff. You know,
Anything
whether or not
metas-
ethics exists.
Right.
Like just all sorts of.
Do they?
It's metaphysics, exactly. It's not physics. It's about physics. It's
Right.
behind physics. It's like, what is beyond what we know about reality, and do we know anything about it? And we don't. At the end of it, you don't know anything.
Yeah, it's
The
true.
ideas are so complicated and unprovable and completely abstract that it's one of the hardest courses you can fucking take. Like, it's just brutal.
And how did you do, grades wise?
Grades wise, I kind of carried on my like high school capacity for my first couple years. You know, I was getting A's and I was getting B's. And then slowly I began to realize that I didn't have to show up for class. No one was going to stop me, and no one cared what my grades were. And also I was lazy and sad and depressed. So like it began slipping, you know, basically after my sophomore year. I'm like, no one cares if I do my work.
Right.
You know,
It's a much more business-like transaction in college.
It is, yeah.
Because I mean, you are the one ultimately paying for your tuition.
exactly.
So if you don't care to do the work, the professors don't really care. I mean, I think in my college experience, I can't speak for everybody. I feel like I had great professors who were passionate about teaching me the things that they taught, but they didn't, at the end of the day, really care if I excelled or not. You know, if I was just skipping class, I'm like, all right, this guy doesn't give a shit.
yeah,
so
it's not on them.
It's not on them, right?
know?
There's no accountability for the child.
Yes.
The legal adult.
Who's a baby person.
Yeah, the legal adult, but the emotional and intellectual child.
Yeah, I mean, emotionally, I don't know if I could be any dumber when I was 19. Like, I think I got dumber from 17 to 20, you know? Like,
Probably, yeah.
you're like, what if I drink alcohol and don't sleep? I think I'll get better at things, you know?
Yeah.
You don't get better at things. But yeah, because you lose all of that structure from high school where they're
Right.
like, hey, why didn't you do your homework? I know you've been going here for 4 years and I've had you in class, and you're like, you know what? I should do my homework. In college, like, you just get to the end of the semester and they're like, you haven't handed in your homework or your papers. Like, you know that I have to fail you if you don't do that. And I'm like, all right, well, I have you for 2 classes, so you can fail me in one and I'll do one of the other one. You know, and
Did that actually happen?
that did literally happen.
Yeah, it
great
sounded-
professor, Bill DeVries, University of New Hampshire. He taught David Foster Wallace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's a
awesome professor.
nice feather in your cap.
It was. Yeah, he really knew what he was talking about. Actually wanted you to try and
That's
like put effort in.
Infinite Jest author, right?
Yeah, that's him. I've never read it, but I've heard it's great.
It's on my bookshelf, staring me down every day when I walk
Yeah, I
past
mean,
it.
it's terrifying to look at, so it must be a great book.
Well, to be fair, in my defense, it was given to me, so I did not purchase it with the intention of reading it. And it's one of those books where if you're going to give somebody like, oh, hey, this book is great, you give them something that's like 250 pages. You don't give them Infinite Jest, which is like...
Infinite Jest, to speak your guys' language, is like a 1-rep max after months and months of training. You know, you're working your way up to it every day with a conscious effort of doing one really hard rep at a weight you haven't done yet.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you're trying to hang clean, whatever. I don't even know if the term's correct.
No, that's a thing.
Hang
yeah.
clean, cool.
That's a thing.
You're just trying to like do 5 more pounds than you could before, and it takes you 3 months.
Yeah.
And you're like, maybe I can do it once.
I'm gonna read it at some point. I have a mission to read all the books I
But
own.
you got to warm up to it, you know? You
Yes.
got to be like, start with Clifford the Big Red Dog, and then get to Harry Potter, and, you know, then you can read some sad stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Harry Potter's out. She's canceled.
she keeps saying stuff, and, you know, sometimes I read it and I'm like, that seems reasonable, and sometimes I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, some of it I thought, just, you know, I see where she's coming from, and others I was like, oh, you should just shut up.
I don't know what she gets out of talking. You know, she's rich, I guess, so.
I think I think we're getting off topic here, but I think when you reach a certain level of financial success, you probably are looking for new challenges in your life. So you just create a storm around
Just like,
you.
what if I stirred up the pot here?
What if I just stick a stick through my front wheel spokes and see what happens?
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, it's true, because I mean, in my life's not like, I'm not a rich person, and I still kind of feel a little bit of, I don't know if happiness is the right word, but, you know, like, you pop a tire driving to work and you're like, finally, something real to do.
Right. Yeah.
I have to solve this problem, and it actually matters today.
Yeah. So, okay. So what we're talking about metaphysics.
Sure.
What were the classes like in comparison to your expectations of what you were going to learn?
In philosophy,
Yeah, in
I thought
philosophy.
they were excellent, personally.
Okay.
Because like, they ran class the way I would want to run any class, which was basically, you know, either depending on the class, but maybe you'd split up and build a circle out of the class, and, you know, you talk about a subject, but anyone can give input at any time. And it's unlike, you know, math or science, which, I mean, there's a reason they teach it the way they do, which is, you know, they're going to sit up there and they're going to talk at you, and you're going to write it down, and maybe you'll ask a question. But in philosophy, basically, you're supposed to do the work on your own time a little bit, and then you bring what you think to class, everyone contributes, and hopefully at the end, you all come a little closer to a better idea than you were before.
Yeah.
You know, because you're almost exclusively dealing with things that are improvable, and often not just improvable, but untrue or true moment to moment. You know, it can be true what you said for one situation and just not true in a different situation where there's a slightly different tick of the variables, you know?
So, did any of the professors ever exert the notion that they had the answer? That's something I always wondered about a philosophy.
In philosophy, well, there's
degree.
there was a joke in these philosophy classes, which is what do psychopaths and philosophers have in common? They both think they're the smartest person in the room. No philosophy student or teacher gets to where they are without thinking they can beat you in a game of wits. You know,
Sure, yeah.
they're gonna match wits, and, you know, they're smarter and more logical. But the teachers at UNH, in my experience, were excellent.
Did you have logic? Was that one of the classes?
Logic
you took?
was
Like
my first class, actually.
Basic logic,
but
yeah.
that was more of
It's a math class.
it's more of mathematics.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're learning formulas, and
Right.
but I mean, it's still super useful, and you never think about how simple these things are, but how useful it is to know
Yeah.
some basic logic skills.
It's a shame that you don't have social media, because I feel like logic and philosophy are great weapons for debating people online.
They are. I mean, it takes time, but yeah, once you've been through a philosophy class, you can really start debating and arguing with people, because all the people that are online, you know, yelling about stuff, a few of them get into philosophy because they want to yell about stuff, which is
Sure.
one of the few degrees you can yell about stuff in. You
Yeah.
know, like I was saying, you line up in a circle and you yell about things. But no, logic was a great one.
What was your least favorite class
In philosophy?
pertaining to your degree?
Unfortunately, I would say it's metaphysics.
Okay.
Because I don't know if it's useless, but it's so. If you've got time for it at the end of your life, sure, but it's just so not applicable to basically anything you do.
Right. And so what was your favorite class then?
Existentialism was really good.
Yeah.
Because that's just, I mean, I'm attracted to the notion of like how to live a meaningful life. Like I thought that was sort of the point of philosophy. to some extent.
Spoiler alert, not what people do today.
No, it turns out we've lost track a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I'm currently reading Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee.
that sounds brutal.
It's details basically the plight of the indigenous people of America through the mid to late 1800s. So long after the measles wiped 90% of them out and all that. And just this morning when I was reading, I'm getting towards the end of the book, they were talking about the Utes, the we'll call them Indians just because that's how they're referred to in the book.
Sure.
In the Rocky Mountains. And when they're put on the reservations, there was like a white person, for lack of a better term, always like put in charge of the reservation. And so the Utes are on this reservation, and they this new agency manager, I guess, if you want to call it that. And he's like pissed that they're just like happy to like hunt and fish and just like live like simple lives. And he's trying to like convince them like to modernize, basically, you know, plow the fields and have livestock and all this stuff. And they're just like, we don't need to do that. And he gets like angry that they're like so happy living these simple lives. And he wants to force this modernization on them. And it's just like, yeah, this was a tipping point, I feel like, in America, because, if you compared it to today, it's just like we have 10 billion times more technology and infrastructure than this guy did on this reservation. And
He was happy fishing and
right. Well, yeah, the
putting up his tent.
The indigenous people were happy, and this guy was pissed that they didn't want to modernize. We've just continued to modernize over the last 200 years, and it's making people's lives very complicated. I mean, look at all the money that I spent on all this.
It
all
is
this
sick,
foolishness.
though. And to plug there's a book, Civilized to Death by Chris Ryan, which talks, you can probably guess, about how all of these modern advancements actually kind of push us away from the things that make us happy.
Right.
And one of the stories he has is about Christopher Columbus.
Dickhead. Go on.
Was a dickhead. And there's a direct quote from one of Columbus's journals, and it's I think he's in South America, or maybe it's, I don't know, he's in some place, and he's writing, and he's like, oh man, the people here are so nice, they're so happy, they like don't have to work that hard, they're just so cool. And then like one line later he says, they'd be super easy to take over and make into slaves.
Yeah.
This is a great chance for us, right?
I've skimmed some of his diaries, so yeah, I think
He's a bit of a monster.
I mean,
for the time, it was par for the course.
right? Probably not an exception.
Yeah, I don't think Spain. I don't think that was an uncommon ethical choice.
Probably
But
not.
like we're saying, philosophy I felt was important at the time, just because I think a lot of people right now have like the ghost of this idea where they're like, I should be happy. Like people in America, we look around and we go, we should be happy. There's no excuse. We've solved so many problems that we're at least told were like the happiness problems. We get shit. You gotta get your shit, and you'll be happy. And now you look around and you're like, why are the depression rates getting higher? Why are suicide rates going up?
Yeah.
Why just all of these trackable things about human happiness and what we care about, and they're all going down as like these other things go up. And so like I guess I was attracted to philosophy because you have this sense something's wrong, but like when you're 18, again, like you don't know, you this is just what your culture is. You don't know any better. You're like, this is what being a human is. You're like, I'm fucking sad, and I want to look at Instagram and look at fitness models, and it doesn't make me happy. But I mean, it must be the answer, because that's what people keep telling me is the answer.
It creates dopamine, that's for sure.
Yeah, it gives you little dopamine chunks, and those feel good for a minute.
Yeah. So, did you feel pressure to go to college?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think anyone ever told me there was an alternative. I don't think this isn't the reality. I don't actually believe this, but like
Okay.
basically, it's like if you're smart, you're going to college because that's how you get a real job. And I don't believe that because I don't. My dad does real work. You know, he builds shit, and you didn't need to go to college for that. You know, there's plenty of people at home that made way more money than I did staying at home and just doing jobs that actually matter.
Yeah, my father does not have a college degree. Actually, I think 0 college education whatsoever.
Yeah, and
He makes
it
good
doesn't
money.
change how intelligent you are or
He's actually
value
one of
of
the
your work.
Yeah, he's one of the smartest people I know. He also used to build things. God damn it, the heat's kicking on.
Yeah.
I don't think the
We'll have
mics
to
are-
take our clothes off soon, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he can build anything. He used to be like a master carpenter, and he hates it now because I ask him to come over and help me with all kinds of projects because I can't.
For free, yeah.
Yeah, for free, exactly. But yeah, my brother, I think, was the first in our family to go to college. So,
And I think it used to be this impressive thing, but now it's one of those things where like, yeah, we're kind of clubbed into it where you're like, you better go to college.
Right.
You know, like there is that pressure and it makes you
Yeah.
feel stupid if you don't go to college.
So is
They
that
tell you
why
you're stupid?
Is that why you switched majors instead of just saying, you know what, maybe I should just take some time to figure it out?
Yeah, because I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were allowed to. You know, I was going to college. I'd gotten scholarships. Like, I'd done everything I was supposed to do correctly, and it
Yeah.
wasn't making me happy. And I wasn't talking about what I was interested in. And I mean, in retrospect, yeah, I don't know if I should have gone to college right away. I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, I think for me, I had a realization very early on into adulthood that once I'm an adult, I don't have to do anything I don't want to do.
That's smart. Yeah.
So sometimes I hear people say, oh, I have to go do this because my family will be mad. And it's like, well, no, you don't have to do it. You might have to deal with the repercussions of your actions, which is your family being mad at you. But then you
Yes.
can weigh those two things, right? You can weigh going and suffering through this family get-together that maybe you don't want to go to for whatever reason, and your family being a little miffed at you. And I think it's hard to realize that you have that control over your own life when you're 18. And if you think about it, what other, I mean, let's just call it 30 grand a year to go to UNH, for example.
Give or take, yeah.
So $120,000 when you're all said and done for
Easily,
this
yes.
education. Think about any other decision you were going to make in your life, statistically speaking, that is 6 figures. Buying a home, that's pretty much it.
Or a really sweet car. Yeah.
If you have the means to buy a
You're
car,
not worrying about your $120,000 education.
Exactly.
If you're buying
So-
a $120,000 car.
And the thing about homes is it's an actual tangible thing, so you can sell it.
Yeah, yeah. You can't sell your degree when you're done with it.
You cannot sell
I
it.
can't go on the street and find some sappy 18-year-old and be like, you give me 120 and I'll just give you the philosophy degree.
Right.
You can have it now.
Yeah.
I don't have it anymore, but you know what? I guess I'll take this money.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, even if like you buy a house and a year later you sell it, you're probably going to lose a little bit of money on it, but you're not going to lose more than maybe 10-15%.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, I mean, for example, we bought this house last year. It's already worth $30,000 more right now because the market's crazy. You know, if the market tanks
Sure,
next year,
but it's always going to be roughly.
but it's roughly exactly.
Yeah.
So
And maybe you take a little bit of a loss, but like you're not taking $120,000, which is you can't turn into anything except
before
a job. theoretically.
before you've generated any income. I mean, I understand some people work in high school and they might, you know, even work full time in the summer times, but realistically, you have not earned any income when
No.
you sign that dotted line for let me pay you 30 grand a year for this.
And not just have you not earned an income, but like we talked about, you don't have the conception of earning what earning an income costs you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What it means for the time in your life, and what it means to do something every day for 45 hours a week.
Which is not easy to do.
No, it's not.
I had this idea. I don't know if I'm going to go through with it, but I had this idea of making a short film about homeless people because there's this I think notion that if you're standing on the side of the road with a sign asking for money, you're just like this lazy freeloader. And I thought about it, and I'm like, I can't think of anything I would rather do less than stand there by myself for 5 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah, I don't think they're happy about that.
That's got to be one of the most mentally difficult tasks. Forget people harassing you, because I'm sure that happens. Let's just say everyone was very kind to you. It's still so, and you're out there in the hot or cold or whatever it is. You're just out there standing around for 8 hours. think about how short people's attention spans are now because they can't go 5 minutes without even checking their phone. Can you imagine standing on the side of a street, like on a busy intersection for 8 hours a day? That sounds mentally exhausting to me.
And emotionally, because, I mean, what is the story you tell yourself when you're in that situation? Like, what do you believe about yourself now that this is what you do every day?
I don't know. You're the philosopher. You tell me.
I don't think you feel great.
Yeah.
I mean, the drugs might help if you get enough money, but
right.
I mean, I think the stats, I could be wrong, but I believe most homeless, majority are as mental illness is a majority of them suffer from a mental illness.
I mean, probably. I have no idea, but that's one of those things. It's the chicken or the egg type of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, does the mental illness lead to homelessness, or does homelessness lead to
your mental illness?
I mean, probably both. I would imagine the situations of both. I mean, I know people who make fairly deep into the six figures that have diagnosed mental illness. So it's
sure. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
You know, I always, if I can, I like to give homeless people like chocolates and candies and like fun foods. You know what I mean? Because it's like they're out there trying to, you know, make a little money, get by, get whatever, and you know, people give them food. It's probably like things that are healthy, which is good. But it's like these people.
Sometimes you want some dopamine.
So you got to have a little like joy in your life too. You know
what's wrong with some candy, man?
Yeah. I mean, calorie dense too, so that's good.
It's true. For them, actually, it might be quite valuable. They're burning that off fast.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of hikers and stuff, they mostly live off of like processed foods because it's just quick and easy to digest and it's got a lot of calories. But anyway, back to the point of the so at what point, because it sounds like you're slightly jaded about your education at this point.
Yeah, you could say that.
Let me ask you this. If it was free, if you never had to pay anything, would you still have done it?
I mean, absolutely, because of...
I don't mean going to college, but I mean specifically...
just the education?
Specifically philosophy.
I mean, I did it and I paid for it, so yeah, I would do it for free.
Okay.
Because I paid $120,000 and I still don't regret my decision to be a philosopher, like to go into philosophy, because it actually meant something to me.
Okay.
You know, but a lot of people I think don't get a philosophy degree, which again, what isn't entirely useful, but like it mattered to me because it was. I'm probably going to end up going back to school ultimately
for a grad degree or
for a grad degree of some kind, because with a liberal arts degree, you pretty typically need one.
Yeah.
And also, I do love ideas. I actually love philosophy. Like I would love to do that. And like for a career, you know, and I don't mind academic stuff, but
you could start a YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really need to. Exactly, I could do something, a variation of it. But like I'm saying, I actually love the degree I did get,
right?
Despite the fact I don't think the cost is correct.
Well, it's interesting to me that college is the same cost regardless of the degree.
I agree, because I don't see how Abe got away with paying the same number I did when he got access to way more academic resources than I did.
Right.
They poured money into like the buildings he got, and his actually makes like a certain amount of money per like person. I don't know why you can't adjust the cost so that all the psychology undergrads don't have to pay because they're not getting a job right away.
Well, I think that's a good transition into my next part that I want to talk about, which is the actual experience of UNH specifically.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because that is how colleges structure their pay, right?
Yes.
Which makes no sense, because if you and I both go to Walmart and we buy two vastly different items, they're going to cost different things, even though we're both getting the same shopping experience.
Yeah, I agree.
So college, it never really made sense to me that why one program is this much and another program isn't, you know, a different cost.
I don't know why it doesn't adjust for what you're going to be making after college, or the hypothetical need for further education, or it doesn't account for anything. And not only that, but like they pour the money back into the degrees that are actually worth money. Like they pour it back into the business school, they pour it back into the science and the engineering school.
Yeah, the STEMs.
Yeah, because I mean that's who gives them the money back.
Right. Well, those people are earning money. They become successful alumni and donors. So, tell me about UNH as a school, as the campus, the lifestyle there. I mean, I don't know what you have to compare it to, but
yeah, I don't have too much to compare it to. UNH, nice school overall. I mean, beautiful campus for the most part, but that's what the whole point. They're selling you on this lifestyle, basically. They're
Yeah.
like, come here, look at our fucking buildings, man. Look where you can walk to.
Yeah.
Look, you can ride your bike on the quad and throw your fucking frisbees. Like, that's what they're selling you to go to UNH. You
Yeah.
know, they're like, we're going to make pretty buildings. You're going to walk into them, and you're going to sit in class anyway, which is fine. Because it is fun. It really is fun to go live on a campus filled with people of the same age who are all getting the certain freedoms for the first time. Everyone's in the same boat. You know, we're all like, let's get so drunk we puke every night, even though that's stupid. You know, let's eat pizza every day. Let's all get hot, even though it's unhealthy the way we're doing it. And let's have a good time. Money be damned.
It is nice to be on nice property too.
It is. It's if you surround yourself with beautiful things, you feel better.
Yeah.
Like that's just a fact. And like,
Well, so maybe there is something to this materialism of buying stuff.
there's definitely something to art for sure. And
Yeah.
making, I would pay money for better quality objects.
Yeah,
you
we're,
know?
we're having an argument, Katie and I, right now about our ceiling fans in the living room. She wants to get new ones because those are really ugly.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, they blow wind.
There's also
They're functional.
not everything needs to be pretty.
They're functional, you know.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Would I like better looking ceiling fans? I'm like, sure, but there's things about this home and the property that aren't functional. Maybe we should start there.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fair.
gonna edit this out so she doesn't kill me.
Yes,
But
but
she probably won't listen to it. How far into this are we? Let me look. So overall, how would you rank on a scale of 1 to 10 the UNH experience? Forget the degree for a second.
I mean, UNH is a high quality experience in terms of what you're paying for. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's expensive for a state school, but it's not expensive. It is comparable to schools that are double the cost for in-state people. So if you're into looking to going to a nice school and you're in-state New Hampshire, it's not unreasonable when you compare it to the rest of the market. As far as I can tell, you're 30 minutes away from the ocean. You're an hour away from Boston. There's
Yeah.
a train straight to Boston from UNH.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's the Amtrak.
Oh,
It
cool.
goes through UNH. There's towns outside of it you can live in that are nice and reasonable costs. So I think UNH is a high quality experience for the money, which I don't think the money's fair across
Sure.
the board. So
Right,
that's
right.
more of the issue.
Right.
But UNH isn't the worst perpetrator, and you do get something for the price.
So at what point did you kind of say to yourself, maybe this wasn't the best degree for my career,
For my career,
for my livelihood?
oh man, that was probably after college.
Okay.
Um,
What year did you graduate?
2017.
Okay, so you've been out for 3 years.
Yeah. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it would have been hard for me to choose a degree that helped me do what I wanted to do at the time.
And what does one? I know you and I have talked about this
Sure.
briefly before when we met, but what does one do with a philosophy degree? Just an undergrad?
Most of them, well, as an undergrad only,
Undergrad only. What are your options?
go to grad school for something.
Okay.
But it's a great springboard for a lot. Like, a lot of them end up being lawyers.
Right.
A lot of them that's their second degree. They're going to be an engineer plus a philosophy degree. And that's just going to help you get a little bit better of a job. Because now you're going to go in and be like, I'll take the engineer with the philosophy degree because it's pretty. You know what I mean?
Right.
It is a great secondary degree in terms of you learn a ton in philosophy that's actually applicable to real life,
Sure.
but isn't really a sellable trait without something else.
So you don't think there's any jobs from an undergrad perspective where the philosophy degree gives you a leg up in acquiring that career or acquiring that job?
I would say effectively none.
Wow. Okay.
So few that you'd have to be outstanding, and the fact that you're outstanding is probably the reason you get in your job.
What other degrees are like that?
I imagine
Because even if you go like for other liberal arts, you might, if you go for journalism, okay, then you become a journalist. You know what I mean?
that's a tough industry in its own right
It's
now.
dying. It's
Yeah.
dying. That's
Very
why.
tough.
But
Psychology, there's not a lot of jobs
Right.
for an undergrad.
Yep.
None that are. It's the same thing with philosophy, where it's like there aren't a lot of jobs where you're going to be using that degree. It's more like I have a psych degree. Maybe I can work at this old person home,
right.
and like actually, it doesn't really help me do my job. But for some reason, they're just like, we'll take those guys.
Yeah.
Or the history degree, you can be a teacher.
Yep.
And like that's what you can do with your undergrad degree.
I've
Same thing
flirted with the
philo-
idea of history.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's same thing with philosophy. I think those two are very close in terms of fascinating to study. And if you're interested, they're just some of the most, they have the most depth, the most, like, you can just look through history. And there's so many cool things to learn, so many interesting subjects. All of them will be useful in your life to know. You'll never regret knowing more about history.
No.
You'll never regret knowing more about philosophy. No one's going to pay you to know those things until you've already proven that you can do something else.
Yeah. So the plan is is graduate school, right?
Yeah,
Is that
that's right now.
a definite plan or tentative or pipe dream? How would you categorize that?
Close to definite, but I need to do some cost evaluation.
Where are you going to go?
I'd probably go back to UNH because I think I know the professors well there. I think I could use the fact that I'm an alum. I probably can get some money off for it. It's close to where I live already.
Yep.
I have like jobs I can work in the area. You know, I have a life established around UNH.
Sure.
That would make it easy.
And
theoretically, I think I could get some scholarships because I've been there.
Yeah. What's the graduate program going to be?
I'd probably go back for philosophy because if you go back in, theoretically, it's not. It's one of those things where you have this undergrad degree, and no matter what route you take is a risk now,
right?
Because I've pigeonholed myself into a certain area. So either I go back in and I dive deeper, and hopefully like that's a way out, which doesn't sound great, obviously, or you bet on yourself in a certain way to succeed outside of it using a lot of the tools we have now, which is something, you can do podcasts, you can have an online presence and build all that yourself.
Yeah.
And that's obviously the more you're betting on it's the riskier endeavor, but it would be less cost negative theoretically.
What would you do with a philosophy graduate degree? Master's of philosophy.
A master's of philosophy.
Or would this be straight into like a PhD program at that point?
I mean, it depends. Yeah, because the way I guess I looked at it was, if I would go in and try to use it as a springboard, use it to get as much done as I can.
Yeah.
Using and build relationships with people in the field. You know what I mean? You get that is one of the positives of college. Is it's one of the few places you are going to be hanging out with people who have money they made from the field.
Right.
So you can build a network of people that are successful and might help you out. And then
so lawyers and college professors.
Yeah, I mean they do other things as well. You go to grad school for something else,
right?
Obviously, but a lot. Yeah, it's basically can you think logically and do extreme abstract thought? It's a really useful skill if you filter it into the right direction.
Right. Okay. Damn. All right. So what's the goal for the timeline of that? You talking like a year, 2 years?
I'd like to do it within the year, personally.
Damn. This guy's got some mojo going.
Yeah, and I've thought about it, and I think I want to write essays, but you need editors. You need people who care about the work you're doing.
Yeah.
And you need time to do them.
Yeah.
And I know myself well enough to know that I don't get stuff done without the right system around me.
The Parkinson principle. Are you familiar with this?
I'm not.
Time. Your work. I'm gonna mess this up. The amount of time it takes you to do your work expands with the time allotted to do it. So without the pressure of a deadline, you'll effectively never get it done. That's why I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people stopped reading books during lockdowns and quarantines
Because they had all the time in the world to do it?
because they had all the time in the world to do it. So think about, I know both of you guys read books. I read books. Okay, end of the night, 30 minutes before I go to bed, I'm going to spend that time reading. It's the only time throughout my very busy day I have to do it. Quarantine, you get up, there's literally nothing to do. You're like, well, I'll do it later. There's no pressure to do it, so, and I wouldn't necessarily call reading a book work, but I think a lot of people
It can be, though. You do get a little... It's like going for a hike where every time you go for a hike, you're like, wow, why don't I do this more? I love hiking.
Yeah.
And then you get back inside and you're like, I don't want to go for a hike.
Yeah, the activity of initiating is the challenge.
It's much more rewarding,
The action of
but it
initiating,
costs at the beginning is like
Yeah.
you have to be minorly uncomfortable.
There is a personal development YouTuber. The channel's called Better Ideas.
I've seen that one.
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
And his slogan is "Inaction is a slow death." And I think about that a lot because a lot of times once you get moving, it's easy, right? I mean, we in my industry running the gym, it's the same thing. People say,
Got to get people moving.
Once I get through the doors, I love being here, but sometimes I just like dread coming in. It's the same thing what you're just talking about. So I think I think a lot of people can appreciate and understand that needing of a structured system to get something done.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it wasn't that way for me, but I it's one of those things. You are the way you are, and you have the flaw. Like your blind spots are your blind spots, you know. Like, and the same thing that makes me good at things, you know, the ability to not see boxes, to not create deadlines, to like just see everything as the same area and just pick and choose what is applicable, and like to be creative. You bound like you need to eradicate boundaries.
Yeah,
but that same quality makes you incapable of building your own boundaries.
Yeah,
because you don't see the value in them.
Was there a particular moment in college where you realized that what you were studying was changing the way your brain works, changing the way you think?
I mean, there's so many chemicals changing the way my brain worked in college, but
we're gonna keep this somewhat PG.
Yeah. I would say, I think when it started to hit, there was a class about the philosophy of art, and it was it sounds silly because it's two fields where no one can prove what's good, basically.
Completely subjective.
Yeah, so, two very subjective fields coming to a head. But it was the way these people approached the idea of art, and it was people being like, do you know why you're attracted to portraits of sunsets and water? Because you're a monkey. And back in the day, sunsets and water like meant safety and good fortune in these things. And it was just one of those... you start seeing the world through a different lens eventually. And like, those are the kind of lenses you start seeing the world through, is where like, all of a sudden it's not, you know, you don't see a gym, you see monkeys getting together and like looking at each other and sniffing each other and getting ready to go out into the night and go hunting. And just all these like little things that just change, like I assume you would learn through science, you'd start seeing the way physics affects the world.
Do you think science ruins art?
No, I think it informs art. Everything I've learned that people would like, it's like when you learn Santa's not real and you're like, oh, that's a bummer. But then more beautiful things come into existence from the truth, where you're like, actually, my parents really care about me and they try their best to get me what they can. And there's just so many more complex things that come when you eradicate these like safe untruths, you know? So it's like science can inform you about what makes art beautiful, and that just makes the art that is good better.
Yeah.
Because now you can see why it's awesome, you know? And you build a bit of a flavor profile for it, you know? Like coffee's good, but the more coffee you drink, the more you like certain coffees. Or whiskey is bad, but then you drink lots of whiskey and some of it's good. You know? And,
yeah, some of it is good.
It's I don't think it's ever... my life's never been made worse by knowing something more truly than I did before.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people shield themselves from the truth. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's really uncomfortable.
Ignorance is bliss, right? That's the
you
stereotype.
are happier, but your life's not as meaningful.
Okay.
And I think humans want to trade meaning for happiness, but it's scary because meaning comes with discomfort.
So, what do you think is the meaning of life? What is the point of life as a undergrad in philosophy? How would you answer that question? A little cliche for me to even ask, but
no, it's. I mean, I took a class. That was one of my final ones. Was meaning of life was like the capstone.
I didn't realize that could be a class.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you think it is.
Okay,
but super fun because everyone wants to talk about that.
Yep,
and it's you have a blast. But as close as I can see, there's no aesthetic truth about what the meaning of life is. You know, in terms of like you can't. Not everyone's going to find life meaningful in the same ways in terms of the way they express it. But I think there's a rough formula for meaning of life. And it's something along the lines of like, you find something you're truly passionate about and you devote your personal time to that. And either hopefully that makes other people's lives better, or every other moment you spend making the people around you happier, and you take care of people and you build a strong community, and you want their lives to be easier and you want them to experience beautiful things. and you should just devote your time and energy to the things you find beautiful. And I think humans, by the nature, like our evolutionary nature, find community beautiful. We find socialization to be meaningful and taking care of people and making sure we all survive together. And like, that's just, as far as I can tell, that's what makes the human animal special. I don't think we're exceptional in many ways, except that we communicate better than everybody else.
Yeah, that reminds me. That reminds me so much of a fitness influencer on Instagram who was trying to sound philosophical, I guess.
Yeah,
and she wrote, "As human beings, we're not very good at communicating how we feel." And I thought to myself, I can't name another creature on this planet that's better.
Oh, we're the best by far. I don't think it's even remotely close.
I was like, think about like a dog. A dog wags its tail or doesn't wag its tail. It barks. Okay. I mean,
and dogs are one of the most sociable animals
right.
on the planet. They're like second or third place.
I get that perhaps at times people don't meet the standard of communication that you hope that they would, but I still wouldn't categorize them as poor communicators when you're comparing them to all other creatures on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, elephants are like, and the other elephant's like,
Yeah. I mean, I guess
they're
dolphins,
intelligent. They're smart.
Yeah. Dolphins have sonar and stuff, so that's cool. That's probably.
Yeah, whales, I mean, we don't know, but whales and dolphins seem pretty smart. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they communicate pretty well.
But no, it's clear human, like our superpowers, we can share things
right.
better than everybody else.
Yeah.
That's why we're good at things.
We can make very specific sounds with our mouths.
Yeah. After 100 years, you're like, this is how you build a house. And then 200 years later, they're like, we're still building this house, but we've learned how to build a slightly better house. And we're just going to tell everybody about these house things.
Right.
And eventually it all builds on itself.
Yeah.
And after 1 million years of evolution, we're like, here's a refrigerator.
Keep
your food cold.
An important part of civilization for sure. All right. Well, I think that covers pretty much everything I wanted to ask. Final question. If someone were in high school and they were getting towards this time of year that we're getting towards where people are having to pick schools,
Sure.
would you encourage someone or discourage someone from going to UNH? And would you, what would be the qualifications you think people should meet before they pick a philosophy degree as their major at any school?
First thing, I think UNH is a great school, especially if you're in state. If you're out of state, consider it's expensive. So if you're going to go to an expensive school, then weigh your options, because I mean, it's a quality school, but school's expensive.
Yeah.
And maybe you can go to UMass for a third of the price.
Sure.
So like, think about this before you do it.
So your advice is basically go to the cheapest, not sucky school you can.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And before that, maybe don't go to school yet. Maybe take a year or two off and hang out with your friends at school as much as you want.
Yeah.
But maybe try working a job before you go to college, because that's going to inform. You're going to learn a lot about what you don't want to do working jobs and what it takes to actually work a job.
Yeah.
And it's romantic to think about being a lawyer until you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
And you have to do it every day.
Yeah.
So I would consider, I don't know how the money works in terms of getting scholarships, but consider traveling and working and experiencing the world before you go to college if you can. I know that's not in everybody's.
It's not always an option. Yeah.
No, it's not. And that's fair. But consider it, because college, you don't know what college is, and you don't know what working is, and you don't know what life is, and you should learn some of those things before you commit to having $120,000 debt you can't get rid of in bankruptcy.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much minimum. And as far as philosophy goes, either make it your second major if you're interested in it, or a minor, and only get it as your first and only major if you really, really love it and you're willing to not make money for a long time because you love what you do. And you're probably going to have to stay in school.
Well, I think that's great. And I do want to point out one thing, which is at the top of the hour, or the bottom of the hour, whenever we started. It's the start, the top, or the bottom in this kind of thing. I don't know. At the beginning of the conversation, we had discussed how you don't need to go to college to make money. So I don't think getting a philosophy degree then precludes you from making money. You're just not going to make money with your philosophy
exactly
degree.
Yeah. And also, you can study philosophy in your own time, but like we said, it's nice to have a structure.
It is.
It's important to be around people who know what they're doing.
Well, it's a vast topic.
It is.
I think
it's nice to have someone who can show you the ropes.
I've come to the realization that a lot of education isn't that educators have knowledge that you can't get elsewhere. It's that they've organized it in a good way or possibly the best way, depending on where you're going and what you're studying. So, all right. Well, normally this is the point of the podcast where I'd say, go check out Tom on his social media.
I don't have any.
Instagram.com/Tom or whatever, but he doesn't have any. And I'm actually quite jealous of you because I freaking hate social media.
Well, that's why I'm not making money, but I'm happy. So that's nice.
Yeah. That's a bonus. I think a lot of people can't say that.
Yeah.
And also, just, to plug myself here for a minute.
Go ahead.
Appreciate that. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this is because sometimes when I'm posting to social media, I feel like I'm just adding to this gigantic pile of uselessness. And I thought, you know what? If I'm going to indulge in the practice of social media, I want to have something that actually adds a benefit. So hopefully people can listen to this episode and say, I do or do not want to go to UNH, and I do or do not want to study philosophy. Hopefully that questions have been answered for them. Because think about, what is your experience with the college before you go there? A lot of people go do one visit, one tour.
That's not an accurate assessment.
It's not. Well, they have a salesperson that shows you around the campus.
Yeah, they should have students that are currently drunk show you around the campus because that's what it's actually going to be like. You know, run around like a chicken with your head cut off.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, what am I doing? I don't know. This pizza's pretty solid though.
Yeah. There's no such thing as bad pizza.
I agree.
Also,
UNH does have good drunk pizza. I will say that. They've got D-Hop, and they do an excellent job serving you pizza when you're shit-faced.
Fantastic. Abraham, anything you want to add before your official episode?
No, you did a great job.
All right. We'll see everyone. Well, you'll see me next time. That's it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Later.